Okay, hello and welcome. I'm Jason Gumpert with MSDynamicsWorld.com, and we're here today for a new look at Dynamics CRM 2015 from a user perspective. And today we're doing it with the help of CRM UG. Today's event is going to be a lot of fun. We have two CRM users who are also CRM UG All-Stars. Zarah is a CRM administrator and consultant, and Brit is a system design engineer and a newly awarded Microsoft MVP. We're really glad to have them both with us, as well as CRM UG Program Director Tony Stein. As we get started today, please know that you can use the Q&A block that you should see to the right of the slides to ask your questions today and share your point of view. We will also, I know our presenters will be leaving time for questions at the end, so please do get those in there at any point. I also wanted to just start things off with a poll that will help our presenters kind of understand who in the audience is on what version of Dynamics CRM. I'm going to open that up now and just leave that open for a few seconds here. And I'm going to, as that poll runs, hand things off to Tony Stein to introduce himself and CRM UG and our panelists some more. So Tony, welcome.
Hey, good morning or good afternoon, Jason. Thank you for the warm welcome and very much appreciate your partnership and time with MS Dynamics World to give a platform for something that all of us as users of Dynamics CRM do throughout the CRM UG community. I'm happy to help quasi-host this event with Zarah and Brit because what we'd like to bring to you is something that we do a lot of in the user group community, and that is collectively share in a peer-to-peer format ways and means and how we're using Dynamics CRM to be more productive and fruitful in our endeavors. And this is what we do throughout the CRM user group. So since a lot of you on the call may be unfamiliar with who we are as a customer of Dynamics CRM, I thought it'd just be best to spend a few minutes showcasing what CRM UG is, and then we'll get right into what we call typically an Ask the Experts type of event, where Zarah and Brit will be sharing some top tips and perspectives on the new features and benefits and their use of Dynamics CRM 2015. And then we want this to be interactive because we're all peers of users here within what we're sharing. So we certainly want your Q&A towards the end, and Brit and Zarah and Jason even and myself will do our best to help answer those questions. So what I'd like to make sure you understand is really the CRM User Group, we're an independent third-party alliance with Microsoft. We're an independent user, of course, of Dynamics CRM. We're not a part of Microsoft. We have an alliance agreement with them. We were founded roughly 6 years ago now. And even since I've been here, I joined going on my 4th year here now with CRM UG. And we had just over 1,200 company organizations globally a part of our association, and now we have 5,300 plus, a global organization of users of Dynamics CRM, and we do have members and folks from the partner community that belong to CRM UG. Around 18% of our constituency are partner members, but 82% of everything we are about are other users of Dynamics CRM, and so that's a little kind of backdrop on who we are. What we do and our mission is really just, I kind of summarize this as a grassroots approach of, a bunch of people rolling up our sleeves to help one another with the product, and that's what we do. And our mission is to very simply help one another maximize the value you get out of the product, and the way we do that is through value-added networking and knowledge sharing and so forth. And so that's what we're here to do as a true user group association. And why we're here is because if you do those things, and we see this time and time again, and I think Zarah and Brit are living testaments to this as kind of CRM administrators and those types of roles. If you get more out of using Dynamics CRM, it's better for your business. You increase your module usage. You're going to solve issues faster. And it's amazing to me when I hear stories from Brit and Zarah how professionally they grow by raising the tide and raising your hand and participating in user group activity. You're going to find yourself grow as a professional as well. And so that's the really fantastic thing that I like to hear success stories on, of how people get more out of CRM UG, not only for their organization and their CRM usage, but as a professional using the product day in and day out. And so that's a positive thing we see taken away from this. And what we do, if you're curious about what the user group does, we're really just a platform that allows you to connect, learn, and share with one another. And the way we do that is that kind of transcends across a multiple array of things we do, whether it's online activities like this through MS Dynamics World. This is our first one, really. But we do 150 of these types of online activities in a given year with webinars and so forth. We have discussion forums. We have a tool called Collaborate that allows you to network with other peers in like-minded roles or industries. And then we do marquee events, whether we support Microsoft with events at Convergence per se, or our marquee event that's coming up in less than 3 weeks called CRMUG Summit. And then we have Academy Learning as well, which is more in-depth 3 to 4 hour training that goes on. But really, if you boil it all down, it's networking, it's peer-to-peer learning, and it's training across Dynamics CRM in some element. And we do that through all those mediums below. So that's kind of what we do. And I kind of mentioned CRMUG Summit, which is something I spend about 6 months of my life on getting ready with a lot of great people like Zarah and like Brit and some others on our planning committee. It is a marquee event where you're going to roll up your sleeves with 150 breakout sessions of all dedicated Dynamics CRM content. It's something we focus on. Our focus is really on the end user, the administrator, the developer, all those types of roles, but it's intended for people that have an existing CRM experience. So if you're currently using Dynamics CRM, this is more of a focused event for the existing Dynamics CRM user. We do have 18 breakout sessions with program managers and R&D from Microsoft, including a keynote from Bob Stutz, Corporate Vice President. And so there are certain breakout sessions and things where you have a chance to kind of give feedback into what they're developing and what they're doing with the product. So there's certainly some visionary things shared here at the conference. But for the most part, we're here to tackle the challenges you have today, and we want to help one another with those things. So as Jerry Weinstock here says, another MVP, it is a dawn to dusk event. Everything you do will be focused on problems you're having today, and hopefully there'll be people there and others that will help you solve some of those challenges go forward. So that's kind of what Summit's about. And this is who we are. I'm the program director for CRMUG, and I have a team, Laura Hoverson, that helps us with a lot of things we do as well relative to bringing our content and programs together. And then we have people, too, on our membership side. If you're curious about membership, Brian Erstead is our membership manager, and you can reach us directly below if you'd like. And we encourage you to kind of dive in and get familiar with who we are at CRMUG.com. And but let's get to the meat of today. Enough commercials, if you will. The whole point of today's participation was for you to dive into, let's see, the next slide. And I wanted to introduce Zarah Kamrudin, one of our All-Star winners last year. And so the format, again, just to remind you, Zarah is going to do an introduction, share some top tips. Britta will do the same. And we want you to think of your questions, and let's help one another get better with Dynamics CRM 2015. So, Zarah, I think I just made you a WebEx presenter, and you have the floor.
Tony, thank you. Good morning, everyone, or afternoon, wherever you're dialing in from. My name is Zarah Kamrudin. I actually recently just switched into the consulting role about 2 weeks ago. The bulk of my CRM experience is related to CRM application administration. So I've spent 5 years working on all the versions since 4.0. So if you're on the line and you're a user, we are familiar with 4.0, 2011, which then introduced an online version. So I've worked with that as well, and then 2013 and 2015. What makes me walk into work every day and be excited is the opportunity to help businesses simplify their processes by utilizing CRM. And I've been able to do that using just native functionality. I know Britta shares the same passion, but from a person who doesn't have a deep technical background, CRM has afforded me the opportunity to utilize everything within the box to help solve business problems. We'll jump right in here. So as we talk about opportunities to look at features for 2015, Most of you are probably on an older version, if not possibly using online right now. I wasn't able to see the results of our polling, but I recently worked on a project, and it took almost a year. It was a large enterprise organization where we were managing the upgrade internally, and we were evaluating new features that were becoming available. And one of the big ones that stood out to us, we also had about 2,200 users, so a large implementation. So we were trying to assess which features we could roll out, which ones were the biggest value add. And one that you'll hear that was brand new, that was offered in 2013, the organization I was working for actually jumped from 2011 through 2013 to go live on 2015. So we kind of took a big leap there. But one of the biggest opportunities we had was to evaluate a new feature that would allow us to abandon an add-on product. And as many of you on the line probably know, in 4.0 in 2011, you didn't really have the opportunity to search across multiple records at the same time. So I've listed a few bullet points here. I won't read those. You guys can take a screenshot of that if you like, and we'll have the slides available afterwards. But one of the biggest things to note with the new global search, and I apologize I didn't have a screenshot here, it's the static bar at the very top of the page if you've seen the new version of 2015. And it allows you to search across multiple entities at a time. One of the limits it has that we had to evaluate on our own is that you could only configure 10 entities at a time. Of course, we were able to narrow down which ones we wanted to do, but we still, it didn't meet our needs because we were actually looking at needing to search across about 15. So we coupled that, we kind of narrowed it down, implemented about 3 of the core entities, accounts, contacts, and opportunities, and then really still leveraged our add-on product just for the unique client need there. As far as nuances to know about global search, for configuration purposes, it's controlled in 2 different areas. You can set up the entities that are enabled through system settings, which as an administrator, you're probably familiar with that dialog box that pops up, and you simply go into that quick find dialog and select the entities that you want to enable. The record limit switch is also controlled within that screen, and what that does is it puts a 10,000 record limit so your system isn't overloading on returned rows. If you do have an entity that actually returns more than 10,000 records, the user will see an error that's returned. The 10,000 record limit is also per entity. It's not the total records returned for your just entire search. So if you imagine typing in something at the very top of the screen to look across all entities, you get your display screen for the selected entities that you've configured. And from there, you have the ability to also add new records within those entities that are displayed. So you'll see a little plus sign that shows you that you can, from that screen, add a new record, which is pretty handy. Enabled fields are controlled in the customization portion of CRM. So if you're familiar with CRM and you're a user, you understand that there are out-of-the-box system views that you get, and one of those is Quick Find View. Within that Quick Find View, you have the opportunity to identify find columns. And what that really means is if you're enabling account contact and you really want that phone number field or zip code field enabled, that would be an attribute you would enable as a find column to help you as you search across multiple entities. One of the biggest considerations we ran up against, and while the configuration for Quick Find is actually quite simple, or global search as you will, those are interchangeable, is the entity configuration where you actually control the Quick Find View and the find column can be packaged in a solution. One of the problems we ran up against, and it wasn't a big problem because you can go into each of your environments separately, was that system settings didn't seem to come over through the solution packager. I'm going to put a disclaimer there, it could be corrected, but at the time of the deployment, we were going with the RTM version of 2015. Didn't seem that you could bring over those system settings. So that's just another consideration to keep track of as a manual step that you'll have to consider when you go live. moving on. So as an administrator on this migration project from 2011 to 2015, one of the biggest key features that would impact our users was taking advantage of the new user experience with the forms. So if you've even seen one screenshot of 2015, you know that its form presentation is very different. You've got the white background, you don't have any lines. And so the form merges is a function that allows you to bring in all your customizations through the form merge feature. And what it will do is it'll bring over your fields. And the biggest consideration when going through the upgrade of merging the forms, is to make sure that you account for time to redesign your form. So with 2015 and 2013, you get a couple new features in the form, such as social panes and just a couple other options for presenting grids. And I would say as an administrator, when I was going through this process, one thing that helped me was really working out of two screens. So I would have my old form in 2011 visible in an in-private browsing session because I couldn't have two CRM sessions open at the same time. And I would really monitor that screen share just to make sure that I was designing it and bringing in that all the fields came over and it was presenting the way that it should. And from there, just a little trick, making sure that all your fields come over after you do merge that. I won't go into detail about how to do the form merge. I've listed some resources here at the bottom. These are two articles that were written by the Microsoft Premier Field Engineers, and they give a ton of considerations in the step-by-step guideline on how to go through this process. I would say the biggest takeaway for me, and this goes back to the global search configuration, is that the customization of the form merge was something that I packaged in a solution to be imported into our final environment. So if you can imagine you migrate your database to a new production environment, we then layer on the customizations that we're taking advantage of from the two new features that we've discussed, form merges and global search. So again, after you go live, you'll have an opportunity to implement the customizations for some of the new features. And so when I talk about prepare a solution here, it's doing just that. As part of our migration plan, we had accounted for, after our database had been updated to the newest version, we would then apply that customization solution file. And lastly, these are just some considerations, on the upgrade process and what's your plan. So if you can imagine, for 22 user implementation, and a lot of you may not be that big, but for us, we were growing rapidly and we had to consider the best way to implement CRM to get to 2015. We took on a phase, we don't know where we heard it, but it seemed to stick for us, and we considered our upgrade a lowercase upgrade. And what that meant to us was taking advantage of as minimal pieces of functionality as possible, and then taking a phased approach after we went live. We can say, why didn't you spend more time up front looking at ways to implement some of the new features? For us, it was about least user impact. And what we discovered through our initial training was that users were only disrupted by the navigation. And even at that, they were like, oh, is that it? So, and that was kind of the reaction we were looking for, because we wanted to become, as an internal technology team, acquainted with the application itself and the newest version, and then learn about the new features that you all have probably heard about: business process flow, real-time workflow, and really funnel those in after we've gone live and kind of get through the bugs of having migrated in a big database to a new version. So that's what I mean by lowercase upgrade. It's something to consider, really rolling out the minimal functionality for the new version, and then extending kind of the life cycle of your project to include iteratively rolling out new features. So if you think, well, maybe you only just rolled out global search, upgraded your database, and then did your form merges, what was that it? Why did that take a year? A big part of our upgrade was taking advantage of the new supported operating system and hardware that was available. And I can't go through those lists and give you what's compatible with 2015, but we can provide references for that after this. But essentially, we took the time to upgrade our SQL Server to the newest version and also switch from, believe it or not, virtual to physical. It just seemed to support our on-premise installation better. We made time to go through the table merge process, which if you haven't heard, in 2013 it was introduced that the base and extension tables in the database were merged. And through the upgrade process, you have the opportunity to select what entities you want to do, but we just bid it all off at once, and it ended up merging all of our tables. A big part of our project was obviously creating a migration plan, and the reason this was important for our organization, as it would be just for any kind of smaller CRM team, is to understand the steps it takes to go through that night you actually do the migration. And for us, we had multiple moving parts as far as our integration team, our mobile team, and so we had to coordinate when people could pull the trigger to actually connect to the new endpoint and what it meant to our users for when they could actually start testing. Two other things here, the parallel test environments really helped for us. We were able to stand up 4 different environments. Now this was obviously a lot of space in our environment to consume, but for a shorter period of time, we were able to have a dev, test, UAT, and production environment that mirrored 2015 as we were able to keep our 2011 environment going for business purposes at the same time. And last but not least, my favorite just tip to give, and this was something I was taught for such a big migration, is that we did a dry run. And we did it during business hours, so it was just another day, and because we were running on a parallel test environment that didn't interrupt the business, we were truly able to identify the exact start time, given everything went well, fingers crossed, when our testers needed to start. So we actually did an overnight Friday migration, and then 9:00 a.m. on the dot, we had our users dial in, and they were testing for 2 to 4 hours, given their role, whether it was QA for integration team or if it was actually user experience, to make sure that they could operate according to their business process. So schedule time in your process to do a dry run. It's really helpful. It can help you narrow down how much time you actually need, how much time the database and table merge take. And Tony, at this time, I'm going to hand it over to Britta. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, good stuff. Thank you, Zarah. And I did see the poll slides quick, and I think 30% of the respondents said they're on 2011. And, you know, you went through that process of literally jumping over or to 13 to get to 15. But I'm sure there's a lot of folks considering that 2011 jump to 2015. So thanks for those tips. And what were the other polls? 16% on CRM 2013. I'd be one of those, and then 19% on CRM 2015, and some folks, of course, using CRM Online. So, yeah, thanks for sharing those polls, Jason. And Britt, I think you got the floor now, but good stuff, and I hope folks are thinking of some good questions to throw at you, Zarah. We'll get to those shortly.
Well, thank you so much again, everyone, for joining us. My name is Britta Scampton, and I work in the wealth management side of financial services, which, if any of you work in the industry, you know that we are a bit behind the rest of the group of other industries as far as technology options. And so my company relies heavily on Dynamics CRM because it's kind of the box of Legos that we can build anything we need out of. And since we need so many things and we're lacking in so many solutions, CRM is a major, major cornerstone to all things technology and user-related in our business. I have the privilege of being a newly minted CRM MVP. It's actually my first presentation since becoming an MVP, so this is kind of fun for me. And I am on the opposite end of the spectrum from Zarah's last organization. When I started out with my current company, we had 5 users. We were a really cute little system. What could go wrong, right? And so we decided, for better or for worse, to take the plunge and do things largely ourselves. We'd say about 95% of our CRM we did in-house. And in-house, I mean me, myself, and I. It's a small company. You don't have all of the broad technology resources. And so we've been growing really fast, and CRM has enabled that growth and is a big part of our value proposition for bringing in other firms into our firm. So CRM is very exciting, but we are absolutely in the small business side of the equation. So some of my upgrade experiences are very, very different from Zarah's, simply due to size and scale. When we started with CRM, our budget was me, and I learned very quickly that I needed more help than that, and so our budget quickly grew to me plus the user group. And I am forever devoted to the user group for that reason, because we were able to pull off everything we were able to do because we had so much support. And between webinars and people I can talk to, and my network has exploded with helpful people, and that's why the UG has just been such a great fit for us. So as far as upgrades go, we have a commitment to being out of the box. It's something that we feel like we have to do because we're so small, but we also feel like it's just a really good idea. It keeps our system clean. It makes our upgrades really easy, and so it's a commitment that we've had from the beginning, and we've had very few deviations from that commitment to stay entirely out of the box. And by that, I mean we're using the tools that Microsoft gave us in CRM, and we're not adding code on top of it. We're very proud of the system that we've built and customized, but it is Dynamics CRM. It doesn't have all these extra complications added on top of it. Something that allows us to do is have a very aggressive upgrade cycle. So we almost always upgrade with between 90 and 120 days after a major release. So for an on-premise customer, that's really fast, but it's something that's worked really well for us. As you can see by my slide up here, the green lines are when a major release has come out, whether that's either a new version or a major service pack, and we get on those new versions pretty much as fast as we can. I do use a consultant for that. I don't do the upgrade myself, but because we're out of the box, all of my upgrades have come in under 30 hours of paid consulting time, and that includes everything from communication to project management to testing and QA and all of those phases, simply because we stay really, really clean and color inside the lines. How we've been able to upgrade that aggressively is I am incredibly lucky to have very strong executive sponsorship. My leadership team understands our commitment to staying true to CRM, and so we're always looking for opportunities to leverage the current CRM environment that we have, and we're always clinging to the roadmap and looking for what's to come. And so if we can, wait 6 months for the problem we have today to be solved in the next release, we do that, and that's how we stay away from adding a lot of code on top. Our 2011-2013 upgrade was a lot simpler than we would have guessed that it would be. Their biggest difference for us was just user adoption with the new navigation, and we found that wasn't actually as traumatizing as we'd been concerned it would be. Our most recent upgrade from 2013 to 2015 was so minimal that I didn't even label it an upgrade with my users. I just got them excited about the new features that were coming out, and we just talked about enhancements that were coming. We went live. It was such a non-incident. Like I said, my users didn't realize that they were walking into a new upgraded version of CRM that day. It was just, some exciting new features like global search and other things. But we found that it was really positive to have things to look forward to and be excited about. And it didn't need to be a big, scary upgrade. So as far as my favorite features, I want to get into my favorite features in CRM 2015. I absolutely love the visual hierarchy. We are in wealth management, which means we have clients. Clients have family members, and in many cases, we have several generations of the same family as a client. And now that we have 4 lead advisors and several associates supporting them, it's getting more and more complex as we have families and different family relationships. And as that complexity grows more and more, as families don't necessarily share the same last names, it's hard for new advisors coming in to understand the book that they're helping on, or for the team in general to have a good grasp on every single relationship. And visual hierarchies are so easy and straightforward. I love that they're intuitive. You just click to open the record. Users know what to do with them. It takes very little training. And I love things that are elegant and just intuitively obvious. I also love that visual hierarchy is really, really easy to set up. And now that I have it, with one field, my users can set up that tree as they understand the family relationship. And it's very easy to work together as a team on it. It's just so simple. Now, my next favorite, actually the two kind of go together in my mind, but when I came home from conference season last year, I told my boss that we absolutely had to upgrade as soon as humanly possible, if only for just these two features. And I'll go on to explain them a little bit. Roll-up fields and calculated fields, I'm just absolutely in love with. I'm in finance. Everything we do for clients affects numbers in some way. And since we've been in 2011, 2013, we have not had a great way, other than Excel, to do math across all my child records. So if I have, for instance, financial accounts for every single one of my clients, and one client has 5, another client has 15, and we want to get some quick math on different types of accounts or totals, things like that, these roll-up fields are just so straightforward and easy. They take less than 5 minutes to set up. The user interface for an admin is just so simple and straightforward. It's not intimidating at all, and it's created so much value. We are just huge, huge fans of the roll-up fields. Now, my absolute favorite, which I feel like every day I am finding more and more uses for, are calculated fields. This is also brand new in 2015. Obviously, as I said, numbers are really important to us, so math, just by the nature of my industry, is really important to our CRM. But we can also use it for things like fact checking. Right now I have calculated fields telling me, for instance, if there is an upcoming appointment scheduled on a calendar for that client. I also have calculated fields assembling text, and in many cases I'm starting to find workarounds, things that I had workflows do previously that are so much easier in a calculated field. Now, I love workflows. I mean, that is my first love after my husband and my dog. It's workflows. I am nerdy about it, and I try to tone it down because it's off-putting to people how much I care about workflows. But I really do love them, and they've worked wonders for our business. And as much as it might pain me to say it, I've actually been killing off a lot of my workflows because of calculated fields. And I've found that anything that has that pat answer, some kind of a simple calculation, essentially if I need a number, I'm no longer having workflows comb through my system and look for events to happen or making calculations for me. Those have all been replaced by calculated fields. The first session I had sitting down and making calculated fields, I killed off 10 workflows in one sitting, which is someone who loves workflows. That's a little bit painful, but it's so valuable. It's just a really great way to use the system. Now, it doesn't mean I'm not doing workflows anymore, but it actually means it's easier for me to write workflows in some extent because I have these strong calculated fields that can support my workflows. So I still use workflows for anything that has an action-oriented nature to it. So if I need to create something, update something, change statuses, send an email, those kinds of workflows I still have. But I am going through all the rest of my workflows and removing most of the areas that I was doing a calculation or watching for a change. A lot of those workflows have actually been replaced by calculated fields. And so I'm just a really big fan of them. I feel like every day I stumble across some new fun reason that calculated fields are just so powerful. And what's great is that in every service pack, and I imagine new versions, the functionality of calculated fields continues to expand. So it gets closer and closer to Excel-like formulas every time. And I'm really excited to see where that goes. Currently, I had been using a CodePlex solution to do algebra in my workflows. And I'm still using that occasionally, but I found calculated fields are getting really, really close to be able to do everything that add-on can do for me, and I imagine that probably within the next version, I'll be able to retire that, remove it from my system, and use calculated fields exclusively. So I'm very excited about that. And I have so many favorite features, but I'd say of my top favorite features, I definitely can't go without mentioning business rules. Now, business rules are not new to 2015. We had them in 2013, and they were a huge boost in productivity for admins. But we have a few new exciting features that came along in 2015 that I have to mention. I love that I can now set default values for fields using a business rule. That's a great new feature. I'm a huge fan of the OR operator. Something that I really appreciate is that in the last, from Service Pack 1 of 2013 and into CRM 2015, we're seeing the OR function show up in more and more places. We finally got it in workflow in Service Pack 1 of CRM 2013, and now we have it in business rules as well. So there's just so much more you can do when you don't have to say and to every statement. When you can sprinkle some ORs in there, you really open up your options. And that's a kind of seems like a small thing, but to me it was a really big deal. And we also have that else function, or essentially you can have a default in business rules now. So you can ask several questions and you can have a default answer if none of those questions apply, which is really, really helpful and saves time from writing excessive business rules that you don't need. Something that is at the top of my waiting list for business rules is the ability to go cross-entity. I would love to have business rules be like workflows and calculated fields where I could reach into related records and pull data. That would be a huge win. So far we don't have that, but that's definitely something that's at the top of my Christmas list. So hopefully we'll get that soon in an upcoming version. So there's my favorite things about CRM 2015. I obviously have a lot more than that, and I have a lot of things I haven't implemented. Like Zarah, we also take the same approach where we get through our upgrade and then look one feature at a time and figure out how to make best use of it. So in the coming year, I'm really excited to redo my security modeling. There were several enhancements to the security model, so that's exciting to me. And I want to dig more into navigation and some ways of cleaning up my user interface so it's simpler for users. We have those tools, and we have even more tools coming, just haven't had time to dig into them yet. So I'm going to make the presenter be Tony again, and we can move into some Q&A.
Fantastic stuff, Britta. And I wrote a quick chat to everybody because when Britta talked about her infatuation with workflows, she was not kidding. And you can go Google or Bing search this, and you'll find a great Workflow 101 challenge that week. There's some great blogs out there by many CRM UG members. Kylie Kaiser's one, Britta Scampton, you're one of them. There's just some fantastic peer-to-peer learning and sharing on some of our public blogs that I encourage all of you to go find if you can at CRMUG.com, and most of our blogs are public, of course, too, so you can find them any place. So fantastic stuff. We can open up for Q&A right now, and it looks like some questions are starting to funnel in. And I thought the first one that maybe, before we get to Ted's question, I thought maybe Britta or Zarah, you had responded to Nikki, Nikki, you had a question around, were there any issues upgrading from the table merge in relation to custom entities? Because you're preparing to move from 2011 on-prem to 2015. And Zarah, you answered to Nikki, but I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind kind of explaining that briefly because I'm sure other people on the call are curious too.
Sure. So what it really boils down to is it was always unsupported if you reach into the extension-based table, which is the table that's actually rolling up into the main entity table when you perform the merge. And so, Nikki, to your question, I'm sure this gets halfway there, but if you have any other process executing on those extension tables, then you just need to consider it. It's as simple as any kind of custom SSRS report that may have been hacked together, if you will. So evaluating any custom reports, any integration, any scribe services, any kind of ETL processes, that would be something to consider when you're doing the table merge. Now, I mentioned that we performed that operation all at once. We went ahead and set every table, we're going to go ahead and merge it, where you have the option to bite that off at once in 2013. I believe with 2015, you have to go ahead and perform the full table merge. So if you're thinking of going from 2011 to 2013, I think you have the option to bite off a little at a time, but 2015 is kind of non-negotiable, if I'm not mistaken. And if any of you are on the line and that's not correct, please do let me know, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. So forewarning, if you're going from 2011 to 2015, be prepared to run the full table merge. And again, that's prompted in the upgrade dialog when you're on the server working with your organization. So I see another question here from Tony. If you didn't have anything to add on that, I see a question from Ted here. Have any of the panelists replaced the Outlook plugin with server-side sync? In either case, why? So I'll just say that we primarily operated off the email router, and we did go to server-side sync. One of the key features of server-side sync was, automatic syncing of task appointments and contacts to eliminate the need for the Outlook client for many organizations. And if it's done correctly, any task or appointment or contact created in CRM will be synced with the user's Exchange mailbox. And once it's synced, those same items can be edited directly in the Exchange side / Outlook. So the changes would also then reflect back into CRM. I wasn't in that organization long enough to see the full benefits of it. I'd be curious, Britta, if you had experienced anything related to going to server-side sync, if you did enable that functionality.
Yes, I have it enabled for 2 users right now. We're using it in test, and our motivation was the ability to have workflows send emails and control when they get there. We had run into a lot of issues over the years with workflow-based emails kind of being sporadic for delivery, depending on if users were logged into their computer or not, and some other issues. So the 2 users I have it on, we're incredibly happy with it. And I am going through a major conversion right now as far as we're moving our CRM to being hosted at our partner, and we're moving to Office 365 for our Exchange. So once I complete those 2 moves, then I definitely will roll out server-side sync for my entire organization, but so far we've been really happy with it.
And just to kind of round out that question from Nikki, thank you for Nikki and Ted here. Server-side sync instead of email router, easier to do as part of the upgrade. We did it as part of our upgrade because we have so many users, and our email router client, as many of you can probably shake your heads in the test too, is sometimes very fickle. So we went ahead and implemented that feature immediately when we migrated. It was part of the rollout.
Very good.
It's okay to do post upgrade as well, though. I should clarify that. I don't have a testimony towards doing it post upgrade, but it could definitely be something that you roll out after the fact.
Okay, and that answered Nikki's other question to that. Very good. Ted, you answered that one from Ted, and then there's another question from Ted. And Ted, I wanted to plug too. It looks like you might be from the United Kingdom. Thanks for joining us so late in your day. And I wanted folks to know as well that one of the peer-to-peer learning opportunities in the user group isn't just joining webinars too. It's kind of the peer-to-peer chapter program that we have. We have a United Kingdom chapter that meets twice a year. Ted, I hope you've reached out to that. I think it's led by one of our CRM MVPs, Adam Verrill, and some other folks over there in the UK that do a fantastic job. So I hope you're reaching out to some people locally too and engaging your local chapter. Ted's other question, Zarah and Britta, was around, have you added any of the new functionality with 2015 around USD, marketing, or social media subscription services? Or do you have any thoughts on any of that if you've used it?
I did, and unfortunately we're no longer using Dynamics Marketing. We did attempt to implement it, and unfortunately we ran into a lot of issues since we are on-premise and MDM, or Microsoft Dynamics Marketing, is online. We found that with all of the updates for MDM, every time it updated, we had to redo our integration between our on-premise deployment and MDM. And for such a small organization, especially since I don't even have a formal marketing department. I just have a consultant we were trying to extend some functionality to. For us and our needs for marketing, it was not worth the upkeep. Now, I know it's getting better and better with every version. It's possible that issue is already fixed. That was a little more than probably 6 or 7 months ago that we had decided to can that project. So unfortunately, yes, I have tried it, and it didn't work for us. However, I do expect they will get that worked out. On new products, the easiest situations are always the matching ones, online and online, or on-premise and on-premise. And early stages hybrid tends to be a little bit more complicated when half of an integration is on-premise and half of it is online, and that always gets better with time. Unfortunately, yeah, that was our experience with MDM. I have not tried either of the other two.
I echo that sentiment. We piloted MDM just in a beta version for a media team, and to Britta's point, it was the different versions, the online versus the on-premise. That wasn't really something that we were looking to go towards at the time, and we were more focused on an on-premise application with all of the integrations that we have. But as far as USD or social media, didn't really align with the company. They didn't really have a need for it. So, and I haven't had any other exposure to an implementation that used it either.
We've done a few events on that in the past on MDM, and I know you'll find a lot of resources out there around MDM. We have a campaign resource management ROI event coming up on September 29th that might help if that's at all helpful for you, Nikki, or others. But yeah, I still think that there's still a lot of users still learning on MDM and how to best apply it in their organization. And it, like anything we're doing out here in this world, it's going to be continuous learning, ongoing. It'll be kind of fun. Brian Fickle had a good question around, I don't know if it's real, with the app for Outlook, Brian's kind of asking, does your user community struggle with the Outlook client? Do you struggle to support it? We find a major hurdle with it when it comes to CRM user adoption, user acceptance. And, I can speak to this personally. I mean, as a small user we're using CRM 2013, and there's half of us that can use the CRM for Outlook client no problem. And I'm one of them. I don't seem to have an issue, but yet I don't know if it's device related. I'm not sure what it is. It's maybe the way they manage their PSTs, their inbox, their add-ins, all those things you read about. There's still probably 10 to 12 users internally for us here in the user groups that struggle with using the Outlook client. And I don't know how to best support it. It seems to be an ongoing challenge that everyone deals with. Britta, Zarah, what's your experience with the Outlook client?
I've seen it be a little bit more challenging to implement in a larger organization. The reason I say that's the biggest exposure I've had is because you can't ever guarantee, well, unless you just have, really crisp policies in place, but it really does come down to a user's hardware, that they have on their machine. And so we've noticed it's as simple as, some users having better equipment than others, and those are the ones that really have success with it. And Tony, that's probably, echoing your case right there, is maybe some of those machines aren't as powerful as others, but that was definitely kind of the case for us. We would probably, if I had to put a percentage on it, only 10% of, almost 2,200 users use the Outlook client for the hurdle of it being somewhat having performance issues.
My users use we have an internet-facing deployment, so they use that pretty exclusively for, I would say, almost all of their CRM use, with the exception of tracking emails and occasionally converting an email to a lead or to a case. Other than that, we're online. So we don't have as many issues as I imagine you could run into if you were using the Outlook client more heavily. The issue that I've found is that on my computers that are already a problem to me as an IT person tend to have the same issues. For instance, I have 5 of my users on Surface Pro 3s. We've never had an issue with the Outlook client on those. Nice new hardware. It definitely has all of its updates. It's in great shape. Some of those older computers, or the ones where a user is incredibly resistant to upgrading versions, maybe they're still on an old version, either for their operating system or their version of Outlook is really old, that's where we really start to get into some technical issues. So I've found as long as we keep things up to date and users on good equipment, we're fine. And that's what I've been told by my partner too, is that they see where the Outlook client works incredibly well is in very structured IT environments where patches are really consistent, updates are really consistent, the hardware is solid, everything's running like a tight ship. They see that a lot of issues come in those small to mid-sized organizations where the IT infrastructure is a little more loose and the machines are not as consistent. That's where they tend to see the issues with the Outlook client.
Okay. Hey, as another, maybe another user adoption tip, I was surprised none of you mentioned the sitemap in CRM 2015. Using 2013 internally, I do see some of our users, when they struggle to use the system more, I think it's part of it's just the frustration of not finding the entity they're looking for on the sitemap. Have you guys deployed the new sitemap options in 2015, and are you finding that being super more helpful for your end users?
I haven't, but that was a big part of one of the customizations we applied when we rolled out the new version was a sitemap revision, which is a custom change you can make that helped align parts of our business. So let's say accounting, operations, sales, however you will. So that navigation hurdle wasn't as painful. But as far as the new feature, Tony, that you're talking about, I haven't implemented that piece yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
Okay.
I'm in the same boat. We did customize a little bit right out of the gate. Since I don't have traditional sales and marketing and service people, we do have a custom area for all of my users. That's kind of outside of that traditional sales, marketing, and service scope, but we haven't implemented the new one.
Okay. Yeah, and I do know that there's some great resources out there in Codeplex where people have some free downloads so you can have some of those sitemap options if you wanted them. I know we haven't used them yet internally, and maybe we just should, but we're already getting excited for the next release, so I think we're going to hold off until we go. But one final question in here thus far is from Nestor. Nestor is asking if you guys, actually two questions. Nestor is curious if when you deployed, did you use SureStep methodology in your approach or something different?
So the implementation I was working on, we used an agile approach because we had different product teams who touched CRM. So we had a portal team, a mobile team, an integration team, and to facilitate kind of the project, we worked in 2-week sprints using an agile process to iterate through all the work that needed to be done for CRM. So no, I didn't use SureStep.
Yeah, I didn't either.
And Nestor, to be completely frank, I know that's Microsoft's methodology, and I think there's some great thinking and there's some great processes and all that. But I can tell you, in my 4 years now belonging to CRM UG, all I hear about from our users is agile. That's the only methodology that I even hear is being thrown around in the message boards and in the chats and so forth. So that's just kind of what we hear internally here. Since we have a couple more minutes yet, Ted, is concerning integration with other, do you have concerns? Do you, Zarah or Britta, have concerns with other Microsoft products, whether you're using with SharePoint, Link, Skype for Business, Office 365? Do you have any experiences to share on what you like, don't like? I can tell you right now, Ted, I'm trying to work on a webinar series around Office 365 and CRM because there's some new features and capabilities. We just held one yesterday with OneNote integration with Dynamics CRM 2015. There's a lot of new things coming out, but Zarah, Britta, do you have any integration tips or items to share?
So I will say during the upgrade process, SharePoint was as big an upgrade for us as CRM, and they happened at the same time. Our SharePoint database was probably 4 times the size of our CRM database. And the only consideration, I can't go into too much technical detail simply because I don't know it. However, I know that we had to escalate to Microsoft in this regard because we went live with CRM 2015 on-premise in April of this year, which was 4 to 5 months after it had been released. So there's just that general concern. But we also implemented ADFS, which we had never implemented before. We were using some other ISV product, and also the CRM upgrade. So those three combined created a problem between ADFS and authentication for SharePoint users logging in externally. So I would say just keep an eye out on that if you do kind of have that infrastructure. Otherwise, Link and Skype, we just use the presence availability that's natively offered inside CRM to show whether a user is online or not, which can be controlled through CRM's application system settings.
Very good. I was going to say, Nestor just reminded us that there is an agile approach in SureStep, just a heads up. And I didn't know that. I don't know. I haven't read through the SureStep stuff for 8 years, so I'm sure it's been updated numerous times since then. Thank you, Nestor, for that insight. Right now, there's no further questions that we see coming through. I know Jason mentioned he was recording this, and you're more than welcome to use our PowerPoint here if you'd like, Jason, and share it with all the attendees if they'd like. And I think from our perspective, a simple call to action is to, to engage other users like yourselves, like Britta, like Zarah, and others through CRMUG.com. You'll find us on local chapter meetings in your local markets, virtual events, major events like Summit. We just, we hope you all raise the tide with one another to get more out of your CRM experiences. And I just want to very much thank Britta and Zarah, who are all-stars with us last year, and they continue to do the right thing and help one another. So thank you for your time, Britta and Zarah, and sharing with everybody here on today's call.
Thanks, Tony.
All right. Yeah, I second that. Thanks, Zarah. Thanks, Britta, for your time today, for answering so many questions for everybody. I do want to remind the folks on the line there's a quick survey that'll pop up as you leave. We always appreciate that feedback, and our presenters always do as well, to hear what you thought of today's event. So with that, Tony, thanks once again for bringing this together with Zarah and Britta. And we will wrap this up. I'm going to say thank you once again, and have a great day.
Thanks, Jason.